Hey guys, welcome to Sim Racing Paddock. I'm William Marsh, and we have two pairs of shoes in front of me from Goodyear footwear. Yep, that Goodyear, known for making tires and blimps. Now, some harebrained scheme decided they are going to make some shoes. I decided to talk to them, and they sent me two pairs of shoes to review. On my left, your right, we have the Goodyear Ori, and on my right, your left, we have the Goodyear Clutch, which are their respective low top and high top offerings. They're all available for under $50, and this model is available for $40. So before we start, I want to address that question that is inevitably going to find its way into the comments. Why the heck do you need a shoe for sim racing? And the answer to that is simple. For lower tier sim racing with lower end hardware such as the Logitech G series pedals, such as the Thrustmaster T3PA Pros, you're likely not going to need shoes. You are going to be just fine with your socks or even barefoot in some cases, but shoes, they might actually hurt your driving in some ways. The kind of application where these shoes are best suited is for the high-end pedal market. It's for the people who are either using the Fanatec Clubsport pedals or higher. And the reason for that is because they require a lot more pressure and a lot more force on the pedals, especially the brake. When you are going to be driving barefoot with Heusinkveld pedals, you're going to have a hard time. Even with socks, you're likely going to have a difficult time. So you want to use shoes for a high-end pedal set. Now the second question is, what should you look for in sim racing shoes? And I would go and say that two things are really necessary for a solid pair of shoes for using with pedals. And the first is a thin sole. If you have a thicker sole on your shoe, that means you're going to have less of a feel through your foot to the pedals. And that will cause in not having as much of a tactile feel in the pedals as you might want. The second thing you're going to want is a curved heel. Now, why would you want that? So you can easily roll onto the gas or roll onto the brake to have a more fluid input, to have more modulation and a better feel for those pedals. So that's just the simple summary of why you might want to have shoes for sim racing. I might elaborate on it more in a later video, but I believe we covered the basics there. So now let's talk about these shoes and let's see how they performed. Now, as a bit of a disclaimer, I am a US size 9 men's shoe. I have a little bit wider feet and I'm also extremely flat-footed. The reason I'm mentioning that is because everyone in the world has a different kind of foot. They have their own different preferences for shoes and things like that. So when it comes to talking about reviews on shoes, your mileage may vary. What might be uncomfortable for me in some situations will possibly be comfortable for other people in their own situations. So I did quite a bit of testing with these shoes. Not only did I test them out on the simulator, but I also tried them out in day-to-day daily life. Now, I didn't have a fancy Italian honeymoon to test out these shoes, but I did have a lot of walking. I did maybe about 75 miles on each shoe, and I will say they held up pretty well, better than I expected for driving shoes. I will also mention that these shoes are not fire resistant. Do not try to use these shoes in a real world race car. They are not rated for that. Because they're not fire resistant, these are pretty solid shoes for sim racing, and they're actually surprisingly decent for day-to-day life. Now, I wouldn't say that you would take them hiking or something like that, or for any strenuous physical activity, but for day-to-day lounging, going out with friends, things like that, I would say they're pretty solid. And speaking of friends, my friends have given me some crap for wearing different kinds of shoes that were kind of weird. I've had some questionable fashion choices in the past, but I got some compliments on these pairs of shoes. I gotta say, Goodyear did a solid job doing the design for these shoes. The Ori, I gotta say, in my opinion, are the best looking. The design on it really does remind me of the Puma Drift Cat, which was a shoe that I wore for a little while and actually felt pretty good. So I would say that these are pretty derivative of that. For the high tops, they seem to be and more unique design on themselves. It has the stitched leather you can see on there, and it does a good job. I will say these were my favorite in terms of day-to-day walking and comfort. When I was using the Oris, they tended to be a little uncomfortable on walking for me, but I'm also sort of used to high top. In my day-to-day life, I tend to find myself wearing Converse rather than tennis shoes. So I would say that the clutches really did fit with what I was using. And similar to my preferences with the day-to-day comfort, I will say that I tended to gravitate more towards the clutch for driving more than the Ori. And I will say that was largely because it provided more ankle support. I tend to also have weaker ankles, but with the clutch, I was able to feel a lot more comfortable driving than either with the Ori or any of the other shoes that I have tested for sim racing. I would say for $50, this is a killer deal in terms of shoes. I will say though, it is not perfect. I found these shoes in white to scuff extremely easily. I was moving some stuff around the garage and boom, I got a scuff right on the front of the shoe. That ain't coming out. And I'm not sure if it would fare any better if it was black, but I would say it would be a lot easier to mask those. So I would say these might be better in black. Also, one thing to mention is the shoe sizes. They are extremely limited and I'm kind of disappointed in that. I am just fine with the US size 9, but a lot of Goodyear shoes only go up to size 10. And a few select pairs go up to size 12. And I know that's a common complaint from everyone. I would love to see Goodyear resolve that because these are some great shoes. They really do have a solid application for sim racing, especially with higher pedals. Now, I tested them with the Clubsport pedals V3. I tested them with the Heusinkveld Engineering Sim Pedals Pro, the T3 PA, and the Logitech G29 pedals. And I will say that these did solid on the Fanatec pedals and with the Heusinkveld pedals. When it came to the Thrustmaster and the Logitech pedals, they weren't really good for much. And I would say that do not consider these shoes if you are using lower end pedals. If you're using anything from the Fanatec Clubsport pedals and up, I would say give these a look. They're pretty solid. I enjoyed them, and I would say you would too. So these are my thoughts on the 2 pairs of shoes I received from Goodyear Footwear. I would love to hear your thoughts. Have you tested out a pair from them yet? Let us know in the comments. Also, if you like this video, please hit that like button down below and hit subscribe to help keep us on track. Also, check out the Sim Racing Paddock forums where we have 2 community events planned and we would love to hear your input on. For the Sim Racing Paddock, I'm William Marsh and you have a great rest of your day.